You crazy old woman, are you insane? That was the first thing that flew out of Tommy's mouth the moment a splash of water touched him. It wasn't much, just a flick from a drenched rag, but it landed on the front of his sleek, black designer shirt like poison. Mama Grace, the elderly cleaner, hadn't even noticed he was near. She had just wrung out her cloth, eyes focused downward as she scrubbed a corner of the massive marble floor at Apex Towers. Her arms were frail and tired, so when she flicked the rag toward her bucket, droplets sprayed. Unfortunately, they hit Tommy, who had just stormed in, bringing noise, cologne, and fury. He froze for a second, then yelled again, "God! Are you blind? Do you have any idea what this shirt is worth?" Before Mama Grace could get a word out, his foot came flying, striking her directly in the stomach. The kick came without warning, cruel and sharp. Her fragile frame crumpled to the floor. The mop bucket tipped, water spilled, the rag flew, and her hip smacked the tiles with a dull, painful thud. Silence fell over the lobby. A few people gasped. The receptionist stood abruptly. One of the security guards took a cautious step forward but quickly stopped. Everyone knew Tommy. The arrogant, untouchable son of Chief Akinwale, the man everyone in the company feared. Mama Grace groaned softly but held in her cries. She tried to rise, but her hand slipped in the water. Still, she didn't scream. She simply looked up at him, breath uneven. "My child, you kicked me." Tommy didn't flinch. "No guilt. Kicked you. You're lucky I didn't hit you with a stick. Foolish woman. You dirted my clothes and you're still talking." Behind him, his friends laughed. Tommy pointed at her like she was trash. "People like you are why this country can't move forward. Why can't you just vanish already? You're older than my grandma and still crawling around with your mop like a dying insect." Mama Grace slowly sat up, one hand at her waist. Her tone was soft but steady. "I said I'm sorry, my son. It was an accident. I didn't see you." "Shut up." Tommy snapped. "You didn't see me. You didn't notice my shoes, my scent, my presence. Are you blind, deaf, and stupid all at once?" The receptionist parted her lips as if to speak, but quickly shut them again. She wasn't about to get involved. The elevator pinged open, but no one dared move. Tommy kept barking. "Look at her face, like expired Gary. Do you even have a family? Or have you spent your whole miserable life wiping floors in offices you can't even afford to enter?" Mama Grace swallowed her pain and shook her head faintly. "My son, pride comes before the fall. People like me don't fall," Tommy boasted. "My father owns this place. He runs this empire. And you? You're nothing. If I wasn't in a good mood, I'd have you fired right now." He spat near her, his disgust blatant. "Keep your curses to yourself, old woman. Next time I see you near me, I swear I'll remind you that madness doesn't only live in Yaba." Her hands trembled as she reached for her rag. Her lips moved again, almost in a whisper. "You kicked me today, but one day, you'll kneel before me." Tommy paused, laughter dying. "What did you say?" Mama Grace slowly pulled herself to her feet. Her back was hunched, her wrapper damp and clinging to her. But her gaze was unshaken, timeless. "You said this company is your father's," she said, her voice low. "But I tell you now, the true owner sees all. And soon, the truth will rise." Tommy scoffed. "Delusional old fool. Jory, let's go." He straightened his glasses, brushed imaginary dust from his shirt and strutted toward the elevator, dragging his ego along. His friends followed, giggling, as the doors closed behind them. Mama Grace remained where she stood. She looked down at the spilled bucket, the soaked rag, the mop beside her. Around her, people pretended not to notice her pain. Then she whispered, almost inaudibly. "He kicked me, inside the very building shaped by my name, my sweat, and my ideas. She turned and walked away, slow and aching. Each footstep echoed in the quiet lobby. No one knew. No one suspected. But that old cleaner, bent and bruised, was the true owner of Apex Towers. And soon, Tommy would find that out the hard way. Let's go back. Before the kick, before the humiliation, before a cleaner became a queen once more, there was a boy named Tomoa Akinwale. Tomoa was born into unimaginable luxury: silver spoons, golden cutlery, diamond-studded sippy cups, and nannies who treated his diapers like royal scrolls. He was the only son of Chief Akinwale, a well-known business tycoon in Nigeria. People didn't just respect Chief Akinwale, they feared him. They called him the Bull of Lagos. Not for his strength, but because when he entered a business deal, others made way. He was connected, wealthy, and powerful. He owned homes, sat on boards, and his opinion could sway major corporations. One of the companies he controlled, though not by name, was Apex Towers Limited. It stood tall in Victoria Island, a polished glass marvel buzzing with executives, dripping with wealth, a place where status hung in the air like perfume. Officially, Chief Akinwale didn't own Apex Towers. But he managed it like a monarch, and the board bowed to his every command. He signed the contracts, pulled the strings, and ruled from the shadows. The only person who ever dared challenge him was his wife, Madame Remy Akinwale. She was power wrapped in silence, elegance carved from old wealth. Remy wasn't from a humble background either. Her family had money that didn't make noise. When she met Akinwale at the University of Ibadan, he had nothing but ambition. She believed in his fire, married him young, and built an empire beside him. But as their riches expanded, so did something else: their son, Tomoa. And they raised him the wrong way. Tomoa, their miracle child, had come after years of pregnancy losses. When he finally arrived, they vowed he'd never lack anything. And they meant it. He never fetched water. Never cleaned his room. Never heard the word no. If he broke the TV, they bought a bigger one. If he failed an exam, the teacher was blamed. If he hit another child, they defended him. Madame Remy would thunder, "My son can't be wrong. Tomoa is just a born leader." So Tommy grew up thinking he was untouchable. In high school, he slapped a prefect and got away with it. In university, he crashed a luxury car into a security gate and blamed the guard. The guard got fired. So when he graduated and Chief Akinwale handed him a senior executive title at Apex Towers, even though he couldn't tell the difference between gross income and net worth, no one was surprised. Just like that, Tommy waltzed into one of Nigeria's most powerful corporations in tailored suits he didn't pay for, carrying files he never opened, giving orders to professionals old enough to be his parents. The staff resented him, but silently. Because his last name gave him immunity. And Chief Akinwale, blinded by fatherhood, defended him always. "He's young," he'd say. "Let him grow into it." But Tommy wasn't growing. He was inflating, stuffed with pride, disrespect, and unchecked arrogance. At work, he yelled at drivers, hurled papers at secretaries, mocked managers in meetings. He strolled in late, scrolled on his phone, and dismissed ideas with a smirk. And worst of all, he thrived on it. He loved the silence when he entered a room. The way junior staff jumped to open doors. The fearful glances. The whispered complaints. In his mind, he didn't just work at Apex Towers, he owned it. And honestly, who could blame him? His father made him feel like royalty. Every complaint was brushed aside. Every tantrum ignored. When he wasn't in the office, Tommy was living like a mini-celebrity. Parties in Lekki. Gold watches. A rotation of girlfriends. Motivational quotes on Instagram about hustle and success, even though he'd never hustled for a single thing in his life. He called himself a born billionaire. So the day that poor old cleaner woman accidentally flung water on his designer shirt in the Apex Tower's lobby, Tommy reacted the only way he knew how, with violence, shouting, and complete disrespect. In his eyes, she was beneath him. Just another nobody. But what he didn't know was that the person he had just humiliated in front of everyone, was no ordinary cleaner. She was the founder of the very company whose floors she'd been silently cleaning for a decade. And that mistake, one foolish kick, would cost him everything. That entire morning, the air inside the building felt tense. Something was off. Employees typed slower. Conversations paused when footsteps echoed. No one dared speak about what happened downstairs, but the whispers hung thick. Tommy had attacked the old cleaner woman. And somehow, it felt deeper than just an argument. It felt spiritual. Because Mama Grace hadn't cried. She hadn't yelled or reported it. She just picked up her things and walked away like someone heading to their final destination. But she wasn't going home. She was going up. Up to the 18th floor. The boardroom. She stepped into the golden elevator, alone. As it climbed, she stared at her reflection in the mirror-paneled walls. Her eyes were calm, but her heart beat heavily. 10 long years had passed since she'd last entered that floor. 10 years of pretending. Of cleaning floors that were once hers. 10 years of watching and waiting. And thanks to one arrogant boy and his flying foot, her silence had ended. When the elevator opened at the top floor, 2 security guards near the door glanced up, and froze. They knew her, of course. Everyone did. But they had never seen her up here. She offered them a calm smile. "Tell the board," she said, "I'm here to speak. The lion has awakened." One guard darted into the glass conference room where a meeting was underway. Inside, the boardroom was packed. Shareholders. Executives. Directors. And at the head of the table, Chief A. Kinwale himself. Dressed in a crisp navy suit, his wrist heavy with gold, he was deep in a pitch for a multi-billion naira deal when the door cracked open. "Sir," the guard interrupted nervously. "Madam Grace is here to see you." Chief A. Kinwale frowned. "Grace? Who's Grace?" But before he could finish, one elderly board member sat upright. "You mean Grace Ali?" he asked. Suddenly, silence swept across the table. Grace Ali, the founder of Apex Towers. The woman who vanished from the public eye a decade ago after handing over control to a trusted board. A. Kinwale's throat tightened. "That Grace?" he whispered. "Yes, sir," the guard confirmed. "But, it's the cleaner." "The cleaner?" someone gasped. "She's been here all along." "As a janitor?" Murmurs erupted like a storm. Shock. Confusion. Guilt. And then, the door opened. Mama Grace stepped into the boardroom, not with a mop, not with a bucket, but with a presence that silenced the entire room. Her wrapper was old, her blouse plain, but something about her walk, it carried the weight of 1,000 buried truths. Her eyes, steady and sharp, scanned the table as she walked straight to the head. She didn't hesitate. She looked Chief A. Kinwale directly in the face and said, "Stand up. That seat isn't yours." For a moment, he let out a nervous chuckle. "Ma, please, you must be mistaken. Maybe you need rest." She raised a hand and cut him off. "Not another word, A. Kinwale. You've spoken enough. For 10 whole years, you sat here in power, because I let you. I gave you this seat. I trusted you. And this morning, your son, the one you raised to think he's above all, kicked me to the ground. In the very place I built from scratch." No one moved. The silence grew heavier. Chief A. Kinwale sat frozen, unable to respond. "That boy," she continued, voice strong, "humiliated me, insulted me, nearly broke my bones. Why wouldn't he? When his father tramples people like ants and his mother raises him like glass. You gave him the illusion that he ruled the world. And now he's crossed the line. She reached into her bag and pulled out a brown envelope, placing it firmly on the table. In here, she said, are the documents that prove I still own 62% of Apex Towers. I never signed away control, just handed over daily management. Meaning, legally, this is still my company. One of the board members scrambled to open the file. He scanned the papers, his eyes widening with every page. It's true, he said breathlessly. She's still the majority owner. The documents were never surrendered. Chief Akinwale stood abruptly. Madam Grace, please, let's talk this through. Sit down. Her voice was cold steel. And for the first time in a decade, the bull of Lagos obeyed. He sank back into his seat like a scolded child. She turned to the rest of the board. As of today, I'm reclaiming my full authority as majority shareholder and founder of Apex Towers. My first action, Chief Akinwale, you are removed from your position as managing director. With immediate effect. Gasps rippled through the room. Chief Akinwale gripped the table. Please, he whispered. Don't do this. I have a family. And I had a name, she said firmly. You turned it into a mockery. I gave you my trust. You let your son disgrace me. Spit on me. Kick me like I was beneath him. Now, you'll feel what that costs. That same afternoon, a company-wide memo was sent out. Chief Akinwale had officially stepped down due to internal restructuring. All communications would now be handled by Madam Grace Ali, founder and board chair of Apex Towers. But that was only the beginning. The story went viral like wildfire. Cleaner turns out to be company founder. He kicked his destiny. The mob queen strikes back. News platforms picked it up. Social media erupted. Clips of Tommy shouting in the lobby began to trend. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, everywhere you looked, it was the same story. The rise and fall of Tomowa Akinwale. From Zaddy of Lekki to Disgrace of Lagos. By evening, Chief Akinwale's accounts were frozen. His exotic cars were seized. His home in Banana Island came under official investigation. And Tomowa? He vanished. Because in one foolish kick, he had destroyed not only his image, but the very foundation his father stood on. If anyone had told Tommy that he'd one day beg for food, sleep on bare cement, and carry heavy blocks just to survive, he would have laughed in their face, or maybe slapped them. But that was before. Before the elevator opened. Before the old cleaner stepped into the boardroom. Before the real owner of Apex Towers stood tall again. After the fallout, everything unraveled fast. Chief Akinwale's name was erased from the company website. His portraits were taken down. Even the security guards who used to salute him avoided his eyes now. Worse, government agents came knocking. Investigations into shady contracts began, bank accounts frozen. Properties in Lagos and Dubai seized. Even the luxury SUV that used to drop Tommy at clubs like a celebrity, it was now in the bank's possession. The bull of Lagos had lost his horns. And at the center of it all was Tommy, his son. The same Tommy who once posted, "I can never be poor. My father is my safety net." But now, the net had vanished. 3 days after the scandal broke, Tommy stepped into his father's old office. It was bare. The expensive furniture was gone. The walls were cold. And his father sat on a plastic chair, staring blankly into space. "Dad," Tommy whispered. "I didn't know. I didn't know she owned the company." Chief Akinwale lifted his hand slowly. "Don't speak, Tomowa. Not one word." He turned his tired eyes toward his son. "Do you know what it cost me to build all of this? Do you know the battles I fought to become a man of influence in this country? And with one careless act, one arrogant kick, you burned it all down. You didn't just shame me, you destroyed me. Tommy's voice cracked. I'm sorry, Dad. I swear. You're not sorry, his father snapped. You're just hungry. Tommy lowered his head. Chief Akinwale took a long, shaky breath. From today, you're on your own. Find your own path. You made me lose everything. Now go, and suffer the outcome. That was the last time Tommy saw his father. He left the house that day with only his phone, a pair of jeans, and a cloud of shame following him like a shadow. At first, Tommy thought it was just temporary. A small setback, he told himself. My boys will come through. We move. So, he called Bio, the same friend who used to party with him in Lekki. Gaia begged, can I crash at your place for 2 nights? Bio replied, bro, my babe just flew in from Port Harcourt. No space, a beg. He dialed Femi, the one who used to borrow his designer shirts. Guy, I never chopped since yesterday. Fit send me 10k. Femi saw the message, left it on blue tick, then blocked him. Even the girls who used to call him Zaddy like it was his birth name. Gone. Disappeared into thin air. Nobody wanted to associate with someone who had become a nationwide disgrace. His phone stopped ringing. His Instagram dried up. And his belly began to speak languages he couldn't understand. 1 week later, Tommy stood at a crowded junction in Ajij. Dusty slippers on his feet. A borrowed t-shirt clinging to his back. He hadn't eaten in 2 days. Around him, men hauled cement. Others mixed sand and gravel. Laborers sweated under the sun, lifting bags like their lives depended on it. For the first time in his life, Tommy walked up to the foreman and said, Sir, please. I need work. The foreman looked him over from head to toe. You day mad? You, way look like billboard model 1 carry cement. Tommy nodded, eyes downcast. I no get choice, sir. And so it began. Every morning, before dawn, Tommy woke up from a cold cement floor inside an abandoned shop. No mattress. No blanket. He washed his face with sachet water and made his way to the site. He lifted bags of cement until his arms burned. He mixed blocks till his hands peeled. He wheeled barrows under the scorching sun, coughing from the dust. Sometimes, he'd collapse from hunger. Sometimes, the other boys mocked him. See former big boy. From Benz to bricklayer. But he said nothing. Too tired to be proud. Too hungry to care. At night, he'd sit alone beneath the open sky, look up at the stars, and whisper. How did it come to this? Because just when you think Tommy's story couldn't possibly get worse, it did. What started with him lifting blocks soon turned into something darker. One night, hunger and shame led him to a new kind of labor, carrying a weapon. Yes, Tommy was now a thief. But the night he entered the wrong house. Everything changed. What happens next will leave you in shock. You won't believe who was waiting behind that door. And what she does will shake Tommy to his knees. Subscribe now. So you'll be the first to witness what happens in part 2.